Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar on social monitoring and gamification, creating employee advocates at Cisco. My name's Caroline Goodwin and I'm a product manager here at Brownwatch. I've been with the company for coming on 5 years now, and I am joined by Alex Montuski, who's the digital marketing manager at Cisco. Today we're going to be going through two main areas with you. The first is Alex speaking about how they've been able to employee advocacy and gamification at Cisco. And then secondly, I'm going to be going through a step-by-step guide on how you can do the same at your own company. While we're talking, please don't be shy. We'd love for you to participate. You can do that in one of two ways. The first is through the GoToWebinar app, which will allow you to ask questions throughout. And then secondly, through Twitter, where you will be listening to our @Brownwatch channel. And you can also use the Brownwatch Tips hashtag if you'd like to ask us questions there. Just to say, we will be answering all the questions at the end in our Q&A section, but do feel free to ask throughout. So I'm sure you're all aware who Cisco are, and hopefully a good few of you will know who Brownwatch are, but just in case. We have an enterprise social intelligence which helps our thousands of clients understand and improve the return on investment of their marketing decisions. We do this through our two main products. The first is Brownwatch Analytics, which is an incredibly clever and advanced system that helps you analyze and manipulate online conversation data. And the second is Brownwatch Visio, which helps you put social data in the center of your business by beautifully visualizing it in your walls. So Alex, if I hand over to you.
Thanks, Caroline. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So my name is Alex Montuski. I'm part of the digital marketing team here in Cisco. And I'm also leading social analytics and social listening for the EMEA region. In the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk to you about gamification and employee advocacy and how we used social listening in combination to gamification to basically promote brand advocacy in Cisco. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with employee advocacy. It's been quite a big trend in the last couple of years. If you look it up in Google Trends, you will find a big peak of searches in 2015. It's definitely a big trend, especially in B2B. And what is it about, really? It's about empowering employees and enabling them to be proactive and be advocates on the social media and providing them the right content and the right tools to share content on their own channels. It's a way to decentralize the way brands are doing social media instead of just using their own official brand handle. They can decentralize and also use advocates to amplify the messages on social media. Which brings a lot of potential. But why is this really important? Why should we care today? Well, one of the reasons is organic reach of brand channels is decreasing quite rapidly. So reaching your own followers and your own fans on Facebook, on Twitter, is getting harder and harder. And it's social networks are starting to charge brands to reach their own followers. So organic reach is not as impactful and as efficient as it was years ago. And we see this throughout all social media channels, not only because it's a strategy, it's not only because of a strategy of the social networks just want to make more money out of the brand channels, but it's also about an overload of information, overload of tweets on Twitter. And it's really hard to get through and cut through the noise and reach your follower. So the only option most of the times is just to pay for it. Second reason is employees are getting more social. Studies are showing that an average the on average, if we combine all employees' followers, they would have 10 times more followers than the brand channels. So this gives a lot of opportunities in terms of reach. And also it's interesting to know that 90% of the social audience is completely new to the brand. So there is a new set of followers that brands could potentially reach, and they couldn't reach with just the corporate channel. There are studies showing also that employee advocates are the most trusted people in the companies. They are 2 times more trusted than CEOs. So that means that if an employee is tweeting something, he gets more attention and more engagement than a corporate channel, even from a CEO tweet or from a PR tweet or from a press release. So employees are much more trusted, probably because they are more human. People like to follow other people and then don't really engage that much with brands. They are more abstract and less personal. And the proof stands in the level of engagement that also employees are generating. So when a tweet posted from an employee account, it generates 8 times more engagement than a tweet posted from a brand channel. Just amazing the difference that can make having a tweet from a real person versus just a corporate brand channel. If we look at the traditional model, and most of you probably are using this model in managing social media in companies, you probably have a social media manager, or best case, you have a social media team that's looking after all your channels. There are many of them, many different networks, and they're spending their time in doing content creation, community management, making sure the channels are always up to date with the latest content. And despite they're doing a great job, even in Cisco, we still have social media managers with a centralized channels and taking care of our corporate channels. I'll give you an example here in Cisco for the EMEA region, which is Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Russia. We post about 300 tweets per month related to Cisco specifically. And we reach 50,000 users per month. And this only with our social media manager. We don't have one social media manager per country. We have only the main countries, but still we have a team looking after our channels. If you look at the marketing team, so we started measuring the marketing team, and not only people dedicated to social media, but that are just part of the team, and started looking into the tweets and the potential there. And they already, as of today, they're tweeting already 1,500 tweets a day, a month, and reaching 150,000 users per month. And these are people not dedicated to social. These are people that have their own job and they tweet in their spare time. But obviously, the number of people and the reach is much bigger. So the sky is the limit, really, because if we had all Cisco employees in our region to start tweeting at the same level of the marketing team, we had 150,000 tweets per month and reaching 15 million users. So you see how much you can scale. With a social media manager team, and the only way to scale is just to hire new people. Hire new people, get them onboarded, and you get high reach and high level of engagements if it's a good manager. But with employee advocacy, you can all really scale at a level that you couldn't really do with just a small team. So we come up with an idea and say, okay, let's start from measuring. Let's start from measuring what Cisco employees are doing on social. We were very curious to see what is their influence? Are they actually influencing our customers? What are they doing? What topics are they discussing? What are the number of followers they have, combined followers, average number of followers, and what is their authority? So, and all these metrics, I think, are important to have a better understanding of your employees. And we use BrandWatch, which is the social listening tool for really get these reports all in one place and create a dashboard. So instead of creating just a boring report and circulating it as an Excel spreadsheet, we came up with the idea of having a dashboard, a live dashboard into BrandWatch that anyone can access to. And we called it social league tables. And these are literally social league tables because they're listing all employees they obviously wanted to join the program, and employees can see the performance on social media and compare themselves to their peers, and also benchmark their performance to the team members or other members or the whole company. So let me give you a quick demo of how this looks like. Right, let me just reload quickly, make sure we are logged in. Okay, this is the social league tables that anyone in Cisco can access to. We created accounts for everyone. As you can see, there are multiple tabs here. Tabs are so the users are grouped by team. So team can be geographically team, like UK, central team, south. These are regions split by geography, or specific teams like MLTs, our marketing leadership team. This is our digital transformation analytics team. Lots of acronym, a lot of Cisco language here. But I think the point is we grouped users by team. Let's take a look to the south. So the south team is listed here. As you can see here, we have a list of all employees in the south team with their relative Twitter accounts. And we have a first column with the number of tweets. And then the second column, which is the most important, is impact. So impact is matrix created by BrandWatch that combines all other metrics. And it gives you in one number, just one index score with the level of influence of your tweets, which is exactly what we needed to create a league table and ranked by and ordered by the impact score. So the first time we published this, what people really loved about this is they can see the performance. Because we have lots of employees that are very active in social, but until you don't really expose the numbers, you don't expose the metrics, and you can compare to other employees, you don't really realize how much you are influencer. And then some people all of a sudden realize they are the top influencers in Cisco and that they didn't even know. Other people find out that they thought they were really influential because they're tweeting a lot, but then the influence is quite low. So, this brings up a lot of information, a lot of insights, and this triggered also kind of a virtuous circle where you have people seeing they're not performing really well and asking for education and trainings to improve their social skills. So the ranking also facilitated and improved the visibility of some users that maybe were hidden before. Here's another graph. I wanted to see also each of the employees, what is their contribution in terms of volume. So how much are they tweeting every week? So you can see right away some of the users that are more active than others. So this is not based on impact score, but it's based purely in volumes to see how much active. So we have here Christina Marcolin. This is she's been quite active. It's one of the top influencers. We have here, this is Anna Gallesi. She's based in Italy, and she is responsible for service provider, and she's also quite active. And we can see here the whole team how is contributing to social. So this report on the left-hand side is showing the top tweets and top influential tweets. The number one question asked by the users when we launched this is, how can I influence my impact score? How can I be number one? How can I improve my position? And so I thought, well, let's show them how a very influential and impactful tweet looks like. Obviously, it's not about only what you're writing or what the topics you're sharing. It's also the way, how many followers the user have and how much engagement it's generating. But still, it gives you, the idea here is to give some inspiration on what top influencers are tweeting and what are doing. See here, Ilaria is very influential. So all top tweets are coming from her. And we had also people reaching out to Ilaria, for example, or whoever is the influencers here, and say, hey, how do you get that? How do you get that level of influence? And that raised a lot of interest. The last report I wanted to show you here is topics. I think topics is really interesting because it's showing what are the main topics that the users in this table are tweeting about or are mostly mentioned. We didn't apply any filter. So this is, you're just seeing here the top topics tweeted by Cisco employees in the South region. It's not only related to Cisco. So it's really interesting to see that, well, Twitter is the number one topic. What do you do on Twitter? You speak about Twitter. The number two is Cisco. That's great news for Cisco. That means that Cisco has genuine advocates and that are spontaneously tweeting about Cisco. And then other keywords are mainly related about Cisco topics, or John Chambers is our former CEO. Social media, obviously you speak about social media when you are on social media. Love, it's great topic to talk about. Go Cisco and etc. So this gives you a snapshot of what people say on Twitter. Right, so let me go back to my slides. So I mentioned a couple of names when I'm showing you the tables. Here we have the top 3 advocates, and we are still working on the program. We just started measuring, and I think we are in a phase now where we would like to actually create also some mechanism where we can recognize people on a regular basis, maybe assigning badges or improve the gamification part and increase the internal competition as well. I think recognition is really a good way to motivate people. We have here Michael. He shared 2,000 posts in about 3 months. So he shared more posts than any other social media manager in Cisco. And he is not a social media manager. He's just doing it because he loves the brand. He loves being an advocate. And he's generated, by the way, 2,000 clicks and reshares. And Nicole is great in terms of engagement. She generated 3,000 clicks. And all these clicks, they wouldn't be there if we didn't enable them and provided the right content. Just a quick snapshot of results. Well, we have 232 users and from 25 teams across Cisco EMEA. And the average number of tweets that employees are posting increased by 55%. So we did an analysis pre social league tables and post-social league tables, and we found that the social activities increased by 140% in 6 months. And this just giving visibility on what users are doing on social. Well, so this is my last slide. So I would say my key takeaways, how this is really started. It started, as I said, from measuring. And measuring and giving gives you the opportunity to give visibility, and people love measuring themselves, love seeing what they're doing, the impact they are having, and that was quite interesting to see how people are really hungry for data and information about themselves. But when you measure things, this also triggered number of requests from people that weren't scoring really well, that had a quite low score, and that triggered an education request. We started getting a lot of education requests, and we started doing social media boot camps and trainings. And we noticed that every time we got groups of people going through the training, they started to become very active and climb the league tables quite quickly. Because of the gamification element, and because of the ranking by impact score that stimulates healthy competition. And then after gamification, it's important to have recognition. So rewarding participation, this is still something we are working on. But if it's not about, it could be an Amazon voucher, or just recognizing people on our internal newsletter or internal website. I think that's really key to keep people motivated, because that's the biggest reward, really, to be recognized as a social influencer. Yeah, that was my last slide. If you have any questions, we have a Q&A session at the end of the annual presentation. So Caroline, give you back the controls.
Great, thank you, Alex. Okay, so all good stuff. Cisco are obviously a very tech-savvy company, and therefore you'd expect their employees to be relatively comfortable with social media. But as Alex was saying, training goes a long way. So I'm going to talk you through how you might be able to do a similar thing, a similar employee advocate scheme in your own company. So the first point to think about is really helping your teams internally understand the importance of social to your brand. Now, there are a few different ways that you can do this. The first is just by putting it up on some screens in your office. This is a real picture there of the Brown Watch offices, where obviously, as you'd expect, most of our staff are pretty tech savvy, but it's great for them to be able to see their own tweets and what's going on around the brand through Visio in our foyer. So command centers are a great way of doing this. Secondly, a lot of systems now, including Brownwatch, will do automated reporting. So you don't have to provide everyone in your company with a login to something like Brownwatch. You're able to just send reports directly to their inbox, so they can see content as regularly as you think is appropriate, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, and they can keep an eye on what's going on with the brand really easily. And then the third thing is to make them feel comfortable with the data by putting it alongside data that they might be more comfortable with viewing. So that could be sales stats, it might be call center figures, it might be the website traffic figures that you have, and there's a few different ways of doing this. So a lot of systems, including Brownwatch, will have an API that, if you're lucky enough to have some technically able people, you can use to pump data into your marketing portals, your intranet, etc. And then the other thing is through Visio, we actually have a display which just allows you to take stats in the form of a CSV and put it into one of the beautiful charts that you can see pictured in that broadcast image here. So make people aware of social, make them aware that it's important to you as a brand and that there's value there for you. And then, as Alex was saying, the next thing you'll want to do is enable your employees. So There's a few different ways that you might want to think about training them. The first is to provide them with some guidelines as to what kind of information they can and can't share around the brand, and what kind of information you're encouraging them to share. Um, Depending on the size of your business here, it might be wise to give a nod to legal. Obviously, small and medium-sized businesses, you're probably going to be fine, but those bigger organisations, it's always worth having a chat. And similarly, it's worth chatting to your HR department to see if there are any existing social media policies that you should be aware of. And then the second thing is make sure that your staff are aware of and comfortable with how you measure social media activity. Most people are aware that when they publish on channels like Twitter, blogs, forums, etc., that is publicly accessible information which can be analysed. But it's always worth giving them a heads up. You don't want them to have any nasty surprises. Not that I'm sure no one's tweeting negatively about your brand from internally, but just worth mentioning it to them beforehand. And then in terms of promoting your own social channels, just let them know what the official brand channels are, what the hashtags are. At Brandwatch, we have a few different hashtags that we kind of share within the business. You know, the Brandwatch tips hashtag that we shared with you guys before this, but we also have a Brandwatch social hashtag where if we're at social events, out for lunch or at client events, we use that to get images up internally of everyone having fun, and it's a great way of keeping the offices in contact with each other as well. If you have a blog, it's good to help your teams understand if there's an RSS feed that they can sign up to, what the sharing functionality on that blog is. We actually use Signals internally as well, which is a Brandwatch tool that emails people new alerts and trends that are happening around your brand, and even perhaps your competitor's brand or your industry as a whole. So that's always worth looking at. That's some great information in there. And then thirdly, collation. If you want to be able to filter your data by your employees' social handles, you're going to need to know what their social handles are. And the easiest way of finding that out is simply to ask. So that's something to do. I think within Brandwatch, ours sort of started in a similar way to Cisco's, which is that we started with the social team, as in our own social marketing team, and then that slowly expanded out. But if you don't have the time to do that organically, asking is always an easy way of getting answers like that. And then thirdly, that healthy sense of competition. Now, there's a few ways of doing it. As Alex was saying, within Brandwatch Analytics, we have a metric called impact, which takes into consideration the amount people are tweeting, their influence, the number of followers they have. I don't know if you're aware of who our senior management team are, but you will notice in the table on the left, our CMO, Will McInnes, is in there. Judu9, who's Giles Palmer, our CEO, and the wonderful Azim, who came over to us from Peer Index in our top 3. So you can see with scores like impact, which take into consideration influence, sometimes you are pushing your senior management to the top of the pile. But on the right-hand side, you can see a table that's been generated using one of the Visio displays. And here we've sorted it by just the amount that people are tweeting. So you can still see Azim and Will and Giles in there, but you can also see the wonderful Charlotte, who works in our German office, and the wonderful Heather, who works in our New York office. So that kind of evens the playing a little bit more and maybe makes it a little bit more fun, because it's easier for people to climb up that tree, climb up that table. And then finally, once you've got people tweeting enthusiastically and comfortably, and you're perhaps carrying out more regular training as a Cisco, where it's worth harnessing that power and pointing it towards the next marketing campaign that you have coming out. So ahead of time, when you have a new campaign coming up, just give a heads up to your teams as to what it's about, what the objectives are, the channels that will be sharing information on social, the hashtags that you'll be using, the content that you'll be pushing out, and make sure that everyone's comfortable with where to find that and how to share it themselves. Obviously, this is the time when you talk about embargo dates. You don't want people to start tweeting ahead of time and ruining your big splash. And then start monitoring. So there's a few different ways that you can do this in systems. We have some great Boolean operators in Brandwatch that are great with campaign tracking. So we have operators like the links operator, which allows you to search out people sharing specific pieces of content on social. We have the hashtags operator, which is just hashtag specific rather than looking for all keywords. And do give updates throughout the campaign. If you have a 1 week campaign, don't just send an email at the beginning and the end. Make sure that you're updating people, let them know who it is within the business who's doing a great job of sharing that content for you and really helping you meet your goals and objectives, really helping you as a company to be successful. And then finally, once the campaign is over, recognize the help that you've received. So share your success, share some top line figures, and let people know whether you met your objectives. Thank all your employees for their help, and then recognize those who perhaps made more of a splash than others and who really helped you on your way. And that's quite a kind of simple step-by-step guide. Obviously, once you're in it, you'll probably find, as Cisco did, that you'll want to carry on that training and carry on making your teams feel comfortable with social and how you're using it and how they can use it. But that's a brief step-by-step guide. So that's my last slide. We'll now move to the Q&A section. The lovely team at Brandwatch have been sharing some of your questions with me. So Alex, let's start with some questions for you. So whilst you were sharing information about the amount people were tweeting, someone noticed that you were tracking everything they were saying rather than just those which were exactly relevant to Cisco. Why is it you decided to do that, and how have you been calculating the relevancy of your employees' tweets to Cisco?
That's a great question. Actually, this was the number one question when we started the social league tables. So should we filter only by Cisco topics? Because we want to have only brand advocates, only people that are actually tweeting about Cisco, not about their holidays or about their families. And we don't want also other tweets to impact the influence score. We decided in the end to keep it with all filters because our objective really is, obviously our idea is to make employees and number one advocates of Cisco. But we also want to make our employees more social savvy and educate them on social media. And not only and we don't want them only to share Cisco content for that. So they're free to share any kind of content. I think the main objective is really to have them more active, more social savvy, and and show them how social media works. And the other reason we kept it unfiltered is we started with no filters and we started monitoring the topics. With the topic class I showed you before, you can see what are the main topics. And actually, even without applying filters, we noticed that people are naturally already tweeting about Cisco. And so we didn't really feel the need to apply any filtering because naturally we didn't see any strange topics coming up. Mm-hmm. But obviously there is an option of apply any kind of filter to include only mentions that mention Cisco specifically or keywords related to Cisco industry. That's another option.
Okay, great. And then another question was, are your employees using any specific tools to send their tweets, or are they just using,
No.
Okay, great.
No, that's the beauty of social listening, is that you don't really need a special tool that you use for tracking, because this is all public data, and Brandwatch is pulling in data publicly from Twitter. So users can use any of the preferred tools or go directly on Twitter and be active and do whatever they want, and we can still track them on Brandwatch.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And another question for you, Alex. Sorry.
Sure.
But it was the questions. Obviously, you use Brandwatch to monitor performance, but what system do you use to share content with your own employees, or I guess if any?
Yeah, we use kind of an internal social media hub. We renamed that. The platform is called Dynamic Signal, and that's the tool we use to share content. So at the beginning of the presentation said, employee advocacy, it's a lot about tools, monitoring, but obviously content is a really important part of it. And through our internal social media hub, people can log in, find the content about Cisco and share it very quickly through this platform.
Okay, and we've got a few questions coming in about privacy. So, did your staff feel that you were infringing upon their personal social media life, or did you have any kind of negative response in that way from your wider business?
Yeah. So let's say that first of all, the data is publicly available on Twitter, so anyone can really access to that data. So we're not really using any data that is private to the users. At the same time, using that data and showing it in different ways, can create some concerns. What we did is to not just include people in the social league tables without telling them, but it's like an optional thing. So we only added people that requested explicitly. They came to us and said, "I want to be part of it. Please add my account." And I was really surprised to see how many people really wanted to be part of it, even if they're not scoring really well, but they still want to be part of the game and see how can they improve over time.
Okay, great. And then the I'm going to keep sorry, Alex. A lot of these are for you. I can fill this one. So one was the social league table that you were displaying. There's a person asking how they can access that. That was actually a component from within Brandwatch. So all our Brandwatch users should have access to that. I'm trying to think if there's any free tools that I'm aware of that might do something similar. I'm drawing a blank on that, but if we think of anything, then we'll let you know. And then secondly,
Yeah.
Alex, oh, sorry.
Actually, I couldn't find any decent free tool to do it. There are some tools where you connect can you connect also multiple accounts, but that will require some actions from the users, and it wouldn't be the same. Yeah, so Brandwatch with that auto list was quite good, quite view, and we didn't have to use any customization, and that's also interesting to know.
And then another question, we've been quite focused on Twitter. Do you have a social advocacy program for any other social channels?
Yes, so the platform used for sharing content can share content on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So social league tables focus was on Twitter because we just started. We wanted to start with one channel. Facebook can be also tracked for any post that is posted publicly. Unfortunately, LinkedIn is a closed network, and they've chosen to not share their content publicly. So social listeners who can't access to it. But we have also scoring methodology for LinkedIn, although we use it mainly for social selling and not for employee advocacy in particular.
Okay, great. And did you check that people were only tweeting positively about Cisco? And did you notice any negativity? Did you do anything about that?
We did this analysis as well. So we did some sentiment analysis, and we couldn't find any negative comments. And I would say if you have chosen to be part of the social league tables, the whole company can see. I don't know if you want to tweet negatively about Cisco.
Yeah, I guess because it's an opt-in thing, it would be, you'd have to have a strange agenda.
Yeah, but in general, Cisco, apart from the Cisco employees, but in general, it's a quite positive to neutral brand. We have very few negative comments by clients or employees, so that's quite good.
Yeah, I guess perhaps retailers, for example, supermarkets might end up having to watch that. I remember years ago when I was working in an agency, we did a report for a large retailer, and it was a lot more polarized there
Yeah,
was a lot.
angry customers, yeah, not easy
Yeah,
to handle, for sure.
yeah, or staff not being that happy about customers
Yeah.
themselves. Um, and then finally, this is the last question, unless anyone's got anything else they'd like to push through, is do you use any social media scores like clout, for example, when you're measuring accounts?
You say cloud?
Hmm.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, cloud is something we considered, but I couldn't find a way to create a league table using Cloud Score. There might be some tools that can rely on Cloud Score, but I couldn't find any. And also, I think Cloud Score sometimes can be quite inconsistent
Hmm.
in the way it's measuring the impact score and the your influence. So yeah, so my recommendation was to our leadership team, that was the first team that started using the league table, is to not use cloud, but use different scores like CRED or Bandwidth Impact Score.
Okay,
Do you want
great.
to add anything about cloud, Caroline, or no?
I haven't personally used Clout in quite a long time. I think that it's probably one of the better known influence scoring systems. So for that reason, a lot of people might be comfortable with it. But one of the things that can be hard to understand with Clout is how and what exactly is being measured.
Yeah.
Um, so I think anywhere where you can get transparency on your influence score is great. And obviously, the idea of just going with some of the basics, yourself, if you're not comfortable using a third party, of just things like followers, for example, or looking at the amount that people are retweeted, you can get really base with it if you're not comfortable with using third party scoring systems. um
Yeah, and I got a lot of question about impact score, and people really, especially those that are very engaged and competitive,
mm,
they really want to know all the details about how impact score is calculated. So as to your point, transparency is really important, and we
mm,
don't really know cloud score how it works. When it comes to impact score, we could reach out to Bandwidth and ask for details and say, why is this user having more impact score, even if it looks like it's not really having an impact. And
mm.
transparency, yeah, it's important.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And anyone who's on the call who perhaps hasn't been, is using Brandwatch but hasn't been using Impact Score, do reach out to the support team or the account management team. We actually have a lot of information on our support tool as well around Impact Score. Um, so you can perhaps take a look at that, and you might want to think about using it yourselves. So I'm going to wrap up now. This has been great. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing and for going into such detail.
Sure.
It was great seeing you go into the dashboards in Brownwatch. That's such a lovely, transparent thing to do. I'm sure a few of our users have been inspired by the setups they've seen from you today. Just to let everyone know on the call, we have recorded this session, so we will be sending out the recordings in the next 1 to 2 days, as well as the slides. So we'll leave it there. Everyone have a lovely afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.